friendos, Steve here. Welcome back to the channel and happy holidays. Merry Christmas. That's right. It's Christmas Eve. So I figured I'd give you guys the gift of answering your questions right here at WrestleJuice. Before I get started, give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Let's head into 2022 strong or something. So a couple days ago, I posted a thread on the community tab. You guys asked a lot of great questions. We're going to start off topical. Braden Loader says, do you think the Undisputed Era reunion, there we go, in AEW will be a success or a mistake? I think it'll be a success. I think that Tony Khan understands that there is a segment of wrestling fans that are now put out because NXT 1.0 is gone. That's a kind of a big audience, to be honest with you, think about it. And it's kind of reflected in the ratings because the debut, the return, the completion of the original three members of the Undisputed Era, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, all got together and they teased that story, the Elite versus the Undisputed Era. They're all in one place. That was teased this week when the Young Bucks came down to say, hey, Adam, WTF is going on here? And so immediately we're jumping into the drama. I love that AEW is all about giving fans what they want. CM Punk wearing Sting's Stinger makeup, Surfer Sting. It's not really Surfer. I guess it was Surfer Sting, wasn't it? Was awesome. Like they do that. And I think it's kind of crazy because Vince McMahon took a brand that was pretty damn popular and he threw it in the dumpster. And then he's starting from scratch with people wearing security polos like 2 months ago. And meanwhile, Tony Khan's like, hey, people really like this NXT thing. Who'd they like? Aleister Black. Let's get him. Who'd they like? Adam Cole. Let's get him. Who'd they like? The Undisputed Era. Let's get them. Who'd they like? Andrade. Let's get him. Who do they like? Johnny Gargano. He's probably going to be there too. And so he's taking this brand that performed pretty well against AEW. And this other brand was simply meant to be like a developmental, sub-brand of the WWE, but it was still really popular. So let's bring that over here. And now potentially the people that were turned off from NXT 2.0's rebranding, they might come over to AEW as well. The ratings, I think they average something like 1.2 million or something, which is just a lot. That's a lot for AEW, especially lately. They've been like in the 900,000s. So, and I think that Tony Khan also doesn't have any weirdness about booking, weird booking philosophies like they sometimes do in WWE. So I personally am really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really wonderful story to watch evolve, how these dynamics are going to play out, how these relationships are going to play out. I think it'll be a lot of fun, to be honest with you. And I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be, it's funny because whenever AEW debuts somebody, there's always that initial period of time when there's a little bit of getting to know you. Like for example, Miro, when he debuted, it was towards the end of last year. And a lot of people complained, myself included, that he was brought in as basically like a video game enthusiast. And then eventually he showed his true colors. He's the Redeemer, man of God, who's now in a battle with God. And eventually they figure out what they want to do with him. Adam Cole came in at the tail end of this year. And now we're coming up to a new year. And Tony Khan has even said, the rankings, they don't matter as much if you're new towards the end of the year because you haven't had that time to build up your record. Got a clean slate coming to the new year. I think the arrival of the Undisputed Era in AEW is sort of a dream match situation. Tony Khan understands that. And he understands that up until now, you've had Adam Cole in Ghostbuster outfits, in matches against Orange Cassidy. Now, I think is when he's going to start taking him a bit more seriously. And I think that come summertime, Adam Cole's probably going to win that AEW World title. That's a hunch of mine. Let's see here. Next up, Nathan LUFC or Nathaniel UFC, says, which do you think is the biggest loss to the wrestling industry, ECW, Ring of Honor, or NXT 1.0? And which do you personally miss the most? It's my opinion that ECW was not a company that was built to go mainstream and to grow. I'm not sure how much more they could have done than what they did because of the way that advertisers back then, the primary way you make money, the way they viewed wrestling back then, ECW and what they presented, I don't think ever could have worked on a larger scale. That's my own personal opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. And so I don't know how much further ECW ever really could have gone. It's interesting to see what steps over the next 24 months GCW takes to grow. I think that the audience is a lot different now. I think there are more distribution outlets. I think that maybe the weekly pay-per-view model could potentially work if you mix that with YouTube, digital media, whatever you want to call it. I think that you could probably do pretty well for yourself if your goal isn't to get on national TV. I think you can still probably do pretty well for yourself. And I wonder how far GCW will be able to go with that, because I definitely view GCW as a modern day ECW. I think that the parallels are pretty obvious there. Ring of Honor, I always appreciated Ring of Honor. I have always understood what its legacy was. I have never really been interested in it from the point of view of a person who likes their wrestling presented in a certain way. The style of presentation that Ring of Honor had just wasn't something that I really cared for. I think that the industry has moved on, and I think it moved on a long time ago from what Ring of Honor had to offer in terms of being a talent farm for people to launch their careers into a bigger and better way. I think that they were vital in 2005 and 2006 and maybe up to 2010 or whatever. But I think at this point, they're not, as an entity that sort of fosters the future of wrestling, they haven't been that for a little while. And so I don't think the industry needs them to be around. I think it'd be awesome if they were still around, because it means more wrestlers get more paychecks. And I think that's great. But to be frank about it, are they necessary the way they were necessary in 2005, 2006, 2007? No, they're not. NXT, I think they're going to end up, the best about NXT 1.0 is going to end up in AEW. So what do I personally miss the most? We kind of have it all already. We kind of have everything we need from this. Maybe it would have been NXT, but even the last year or so of NXT, they had, I feel like they were running on fumes. The directive to make more characters was kind of obvious, and they just were straying away from what made them good. And also in the from 2019 on, WWE missed a really big opportunity for that brand and the idea of call-ups to really mean something, to really matter. And so NXT was dead before it was dead anyways. So what do I personally miss the most? I don't know. You sort of have everything already. So in that respect, I am bummed out. I guess it'd be NXT, because I'm bummed out that they decided to scrub the decks of their, critically acclaimed brand. I wish that they had kept it that way, but it is what it is. So yeah, I'd say NXT is the one I miss the most. White Brownie, obviously 2.0 is pretty much here to stay. So in 2022, what kind of improvements would you like to see for 2.0 that could maybe help the brand in a positive way like 1.0 did? Oh man, it's so different. A rename. It's not, because it's not NXT. It's not what NXT was. And Kevin Owens said this in an interview recently rather. NXT 2.0 is not what NXT 1.0 was, and it's so different. It's such a different thing that why would you even keep that branding? Why would you even continue to label it NXT? Why not just close it down and give it its own? They bought Evolve, so they could just call it Evolve. WWE Evolve. I don't know, something like that. But I think understanding that it's not what it was and not trying to pretend that it is some sort of continuation of that by renaming it. Superficial thing, absolutely. Would it matter at all? Would it change NXT 2.0 at all? No, of course not. But it might help that brand craft a new legacy for itself, which is a nebulous thing. It's an abstract idea. They can sort of just do the same thing under the branding of NXT, and this can be considered a rebuilding process for NXT 2.0. And maybe in 2 years, they'll all be terrific wrestlers. I don't know. I mean, it's just not an interesting. There's some interesting aspects to it, and it's interesting to see what WWE thinks their future is. But it's also not terribly. I'm not optimistic about it because the only thing they've really done is give us Braun Breaker. There's some other decent bits and pieces here and there, but I don't know. It's just not what it was. Adam Rogers, speaking of which, do you see NXT going back to being a pre-taped network streaming equivalent exclusive, whether due to ratings, money available from TV, or easier to work on or redo segments for the newer sports entertainment? The ratings seem to be okay. The ratings seem to be in a place where USA is happy with it. I don't know how much longer that'll last. From what I understand, they're sort of nearing the time when, or I'm sorry, they're nearing the ratings where it would be more beneficial for them to run like an old episode of Law and Order or whatever USA has. I think USA has Law and Order, as opposed to paying WWE money for it. Granted, they're not paying a whole lot for it, but I think that maybe in this year we'll see NXT swivel to like the TV 14 experiment and see if maybe that'll help boost ratings. I'm curious to see what they do with it. I mean, it's still a big hunk of clay that they can totally mold into something different. And maybe we'll see that in 2022. I don't see it going back to a pre-taped network exclusive. I don't see that because they already have their Peacock money. Why would they put more money into that? Maybe they would go to being some sort of, I don't know. I don't see them doing that because that would be for Peacock, and they already have money from Peacock. I don't know how that would benefit them. I mean, you'd think that like their wrestlers would need a place to like get reps in, but they seemingly don't care about that either. Let's see here. Sent Sky asks, do you think Veer will be like Brackus? He says, what I mean is in that one video, it showed the longest times it took for wrestlers to debut. And at the end, it said Brackus took 9 months to debut. Do you think Veer Mahan will be in the same situation? I give Veer mid-January. I think Veer will be mid-January when he debuts. That's my guess. So no, I don't think he's going to be like Brackus because he already has matches on main event with T-Bar right now. Let's see here. Deep voice dude. Do you think WWE and AEW are actually competing? It feels like they're going after different types of wrestlers and therefore different types of wrestling fans. Because of this, it feels like there is less overlap between fan bases as opposed to WCW versus WWE or even TNA versus WWE. That's why you never hear AEW chants at WWE shows. Great point. And I don't think that they're really competing against each other. I think that they are trying to scratch out their own brand of pro wrestling. I think they naturally compete for talent because AEW can pay for talent. So if a highly sought after free agent comes on the market, WWE can offer them more money. AEW can offer them whatever they offer people, I guess, a better shot at creative that might satisfy that particular wrestler if that's something that they appreciate, I suppose. So I don't think that they are competing in the way that WWF and WCW were competing back in the day. I don't think that. I think that there is room in the entertainment space for 2, maybe even 3 professional wrestling companies. At a certain point, burnout might be a thing, in which case fan bases are going to choose where they're going to spend their time. And I think that's what WWE and AEW are doing. I think that the WWE in a quarterly earnings call said something like, we consider everything our competition, the iPad, the iPhone, streaming services, sleep, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's the same for AEW. Now, I think if WWE drops the ball on something, on a talent, and then releases them, and AEW says, hey, they could have really done a whole lot of stuff with that person. Let's bring him over here and do those things and make money with them. If you view that as competition, then there you go. I guess that's some sort of competition. But I view that more as AEW's proven that there is a space in entertainment for a certain type of wrestling that isn't WWE, and that's what they're proving. I don't think in terms of trying to like crush the other one, I don't think that's happening right now. I don't think that I think WWE took their ball and went home. They're not competing for the same wrestlers that AEW is trying to compete with. And I don't think that they're trying to like flood the market with new talent that AEW is just going to snatch up. I think AEW is being very picky and choosy with who they're going after. They didn't break their bank for Kevin Steen, for Kevin Owens, much to my surprise. And so, no, I think that proves that they're going to be selective with who they pick up. If you take a look at all the releases that WWE had this past year, there's only a small fraction of them that actually landed in AEW. So I don't, in that respect, think that they are competing the way that WWF and WCW used to compete. Eric Bischoff was actively trying to put WWF out of business, and Vince McMahon was trying to actively prevent that from happening. Yeah, we'll end on this one. Sam Petrosky says, what is something small the WWE used to do that they don't do anymore that you miss? He says, for me, I miss the custom pay-per-view sets. It made the shows actually feel special. Licensed music recap packages, new metal. I miss that they used to use new metal. Yeah, I think that their recap packages for pay-per-views used to time and time again used to be like, we did a review of SummerSlam 2005 over at Going In Raw this past weekend, just dropped today actually, and it was, everything was so new metal and it had an energy to it. I really appreciated that. These days, I mean, it's just a lot more sort of, I don't know, corporatized, Disneyized. They do use a wider selection of music these days, but their recap packages used to just have so much more energy to them. And I think that's sort of lacking these days. So, yeah, that's what I think. Let me know in the comments below what you think about, I don't know, any of this stuff. Undisputed Era, yay or nay in AEW. What do you think they should call them? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back next week with another Ask WrestleJuice or Steve or whoever you want to call this. Check out one of these other videos.